Welcome back to the Real Story channel. Once upon a time, in a small village embraced by nature's arms, there lived a family overflowing with love and happiness. They seemed to carry sunshine wherever they went. Teddy, the head of the family, was strong and kind, tending to his farm like an artist painting a masterpiece with his crops. Zara, his wife, was not only known for her beauty but also for her gentle spirit and wise words. Together, they were blessed with a daughter named Tinu, who mirrored the best traits of her parents. The house was always filled with laughter and stories, and Tinu grew up surrounded by love. She was as bright as the morning sun, always eager to learn and quick to help others. However, life has a way of surprising us, and not all surprises are pleasant. One night, after a long day of work, disaster struck when a fierce and unforgiving fire engulfed their home. It consumed everything in its path, leaving only ashes behind. Teddy and Zara couldn't survive, but somehow Tinu did. In their final moments, her parents protected her, ensuring her safety from the flames. Suddenly, Tinu found herself alone, her familiar world turned to dust. The village came together, mourning and offering prayers to provide whatever comfort they could. As the dust settled and a new day dawned, Tinu's life took a new direction. She moved in with her aunt, Asabi, in a neighboring village, stepping into a new chapter filled with uncertainties. This marked the beginning of a different journey for Tinu. From a place brimming with love, she now embarked on a path with a heavy yet hopeful heart. Her story was just beginning, like a river cutting through new lands, ready to face whatever challenges came her way with the strength her parents had instilled in her. In a village not too far away, Tinu started her new life with Aunt Asabi. Asabi's house was different, but there was a glimmer of hope in the air, suggesting that things might resemble the past, if only a little. Asabi, who had no children of her own, believed that having Tinu around might bring blessings from the gods and grant her a child. In the beginning, Asabi treated Tinu as something precious, ensuring she had nice clothes to wear and delicious food to eat. She even discouraged Tinu from doing household chores, wanting to take care of everything herself and make Tinu feel at home. However, as the days turned into weeks, things started to change. It all began one afternoon when Asabi's friends visited, engrossed in conversations about Tinu's blossoming beauty. They whispered things to Asabi that planted seeds of worry in her heart. They warned her that if she continued to spoil Tinu, she might end up stealing her husband away from her someday. Those words clung to Asabi's mind like thorns, and slowly she began to see Tinu in a different light. Jealousy and fear took root in Asabi's heart, causing her to act coldly towards Tinu. She started assigning the hardest chores to Tinu, tasks that were too difficult for a girl her age. Then, on a scorching hot afternoon, Asabi did something that shocked everyone. She sent Tinu to fetch water from the stream, a forbidden act in their village. There was a rule that girls shouldn't go to the stream in the afternoon due to old tales that warned of the wandering river spirit seeking companionship. Tinu, with tears in her eyes, reminded Asabi of the dangers and the blazing sun, pleading not to go. But Asabi remained firm, even threatening punishment if Tinu refused. With a heavy heart and a pot in her hands, Tinu set off to the stream, crying all the way. However, fate had a twist waiting for her along the path. She encountered an old woman who seemed to have been waiting specifically for her. The old woman noticed Tinu's tears and asked her to share her troubles. Tinu poured out her heart, revealing the story of her aunt and the forbidden trip to the stream. Touched by Tinu's story, the old woman decided to help. She gave Tinu the water she had fetched for herself, sparing Tinu from breaking the village rule and facing the river spirit. From that day on, whenever Aunt Asabi was absent, Tinu would secretly visit the old woman. The old woman's heart became a sanctuary for Tinu, a place of escape. There, she found kindness and stories that momentarily made her forget her sorrows. The old woman treated Tinu as the granddaughter she never had, and in the warmth of her companionship, Tinu discovered a glimmer of the happiness she thought she had lost forever. After that first meeting along the path, Tinu and the old woman formed an unexpected yet strong bond. The elderly woman, whose face bore the wrinkles of countless years and whose eyes radiated kindness, became a beacon of hope for Tinu in her world of darkness. Whenever she had the opportunity, Tinu would slip away to visit the old woman, who resided in a small, cozy hut nestled among the embracing trees. Though the old woman had a name that danced on the breeze, to Tinu, she was simply Grandma. Grandma's heart was a magical place for Tinu, filled with the aroma of herbs and the warmth of a crackling fire. It was there that Grandma would share stories of days gone by, tales of heroes, heroines, talking creatures, and moving mountains. Tinu listened with wide-eyed wonder as each story unfolded, painting vivid pictures in her mind. But Grandma's influence extended beyond storytelling. She also taught Tinu. She showed her how to identify the wild herbs that grew in the forest, which ones could heal wounds and soothe fevers. Under Grandma's gentle guidance, Tinu learned the secrets of the earth, the language of plants and animals. It was a world far removed from the harshness of Aunt Asabi's home, a sanctuary where Tinu's spirit could soar freely. However, the peace Tinu found with the old woman couldn't last forever. Back at Aunt Asabi's house, storm clouds were gathering. Asabi's heart had turned cold toward Tinu, her eyes clouded with suspicion and jealousy. It didn't help that Asabi's husband unknowingly added fuel to the fire by showing kindness to Tinu, treating her like a beloved niece. Through Asabi's twisted perception influenced by her friends' whispers, even the most innocent acts of kindness seemed like a conspiracy. Then came the day that pushed Asabi over the edge. Asabi had gone out to spend the afternoon with her friends, leaving Tinu with a mountain of chores and a stern warning to have them all done before she returned. Tinu worked diligently, hoping to steal a few moments to visit Grandma. But before she could leave, Asabi's husband returned home early and engaged Tinu in conversation, asking about her day and sharing stories to make her smile. Just as Asabi returned with her friends, they witnessed an innocent scene twisted into something sinister by their suspicions. Asabi flew into a rage, her friends egging her on and accusing Tinu of trying to seduce her husband. Tinu and the uncle tried to explain, but Asabi would hear none of it. The accusation spread like a wildfire, causing chaos and destroying everything in its path. Without a chance to defend herself, Tinu was ordered to pack her things and leave the village. The townspeople tried to intervene, but without proof and given Asabi's mindset, their words fell on deaf ears. Tinu was heartbroken, cast out based on a lie, in her darkest hour. Uncle Deli, Asabi's brother and a wealthy businessman from a nearby town, came to her rescue despite his sister's fierce protest. Deli saw through the false accusations and decided to take Tinu with him to the town. Moving to the town was like stepping into another world for Tinu. It was bustling, loud, and filled with sights she had never imagined. Uncle Deli welcomed Tinu into his home, which was as warm as it was grand. His wife and their 2 daughters embraced Tinu as one of their own, not as a distant relative. For the first time since the fire, Tinu felt a sense of belonging. She was enrolled in school, where her intelligence and kindness quickly won her friends and the admiration of her teachers. The town offered Tinu a fresh start, a chance to rebuild her life on new foundations. Uncle Deli's family became her new haven, a place where she was valued and loved. Amidst the bustling streets and towering buildings, Tinu found a new home, a place where the shadows of her past began to fade, replaced by the light of hope and the promise of a brighter future. Just when Tinu thought she was safe and far from her painful memories, trouble found her again. This time, it was Uncle Deli, the person who had taken her in and promised to keep her safe, who betrayed her in the most unimaginable way. It occurred on a seemingly ordinary day when Deli's wife and daughters were away, leaving Tinu alone in his care. Deli approached Tinu, pretending to check on her, but his intentions were far from good. He sat down beside her on the bed, and then he began touching her chest, eventually forcing himself upon her. In those moments, the trust TINU had placed in Uncle Deli and the respect she had for him as a guardian and mentor shattered. Frozen in shock and disbelief, TINU couldn't comprehend how the man who had been her savior turned into the source of her deepest pain. Feeling scared and confused, TINU chose not to tell anyone what happened. She believed it would only make things worse and potentially break up the family that had been kind to her, so she kept her pain to herself, which grew heavier with each passing day. Uncle Deli continued to hurt her, making her feel trapped and helpless. His actions persisted whenever his wife and children were not around. He would enter TINU'S room and take advantage of her, showing no remorse. He threatened TINU, warning her not to speak up or she would be sent back to Aunt Asabi in the village. The house that once felt like a safe haven became her prison. The smiles of Deli's wife and daughters, which were once a source of comfort, now felt like a facade hiding the grim reality of her existence. TINU was caught in a storm of emotions, her heart yearning for a way out but her mind clouded with fear of the unknown. Then came the day when TINU's spirit, though battered, could no longer endure the abuse. She realized that staying would mean losing herself completely, and the cost of silence was too great. Summoning courage born of desperation, TINU made the decision to escape. One afternoon, when the house was empty and the bustling streets of the town offered an opportunity to slip away unnoticed, TINU left with nothing but the clothes she was wearing and a strong determination to escape the darkness that had resurfaced in her life. She had no plan or destination, only a burning need for safety and a place where the night held no terrors. As TINU walked away from Uncle Deli's house, she felt a little lighter with each step. She didn't know what would happen next, but she was ready to find out and make a fresh start for herself. Her escape showcased her bravery and strength, proving that even in the midst of adversity, one can still find a way to brighter days. TINU's story was far from over, it was just beginning a new chapter. She was now on a path to healing and rediscovering happiness away from the hurt and betrayal. Years went by quickly, and it seemed like everyone had forgotten about the girl who used to be so happy with her family before facing tough times. But luck and life have a way of changing, and her story was far from over. In those years, TINU'S absence became a silent reminder in the lives of Aunt Asabi and Uncle Deli, a reminder of the actions and choices that led to unforeseen consequences. Asabi, once vibrant and full of life, found herself caught in a downward spiral of misfortune. The jealousy that clouded her judgment and led to TINU'S departure had also seeped into her marriage, corroding it until bitterness and regret remained. As she got divorced and her friends drifted away, she was left isolated in her misery. The loss of her wealth seemed like a curse, as the favor she had sought by taking in TINU turned against her. Deli's downfall was equally dramatic. The man who once stood tall as a pillar of success and a beacon of hope found his world crumbling. His thriving business ventures began to falter one after the other, and his accumulated wealth dissipated like morning fog under the harsh sun of bad investments and economic downturns. His good name was ruined, and people started talking behind his back about his bad deeds. Even his once close friends distanced themselves from him. In the end, Deli returned to the village, where there was no hope of success for him anymore. His wife left him because he could no longer provide for the family, and his friends sidelined him. By the river, Asabi and Deli, who had treated TINU poorly in the past, found themselves walking together one day. This place reminded them of TINU, who had brought joy but also sadness into their lives. They ran into the old woman who had been there for TINU during her good and bad times. Feeling guilty and hoping to find peace, Asabi and Deli spilled out all their worries to her, including their concerns about TINU. The impact of their actions struck Asabi and Deli hard, forcing them to confront the wrongs they had committed and the guilt they had carried. Standing before the old woman who knew the full story, they hoped for answers or a way to make things right as they stood by the river. Instead of offering comfort or condemnation, the old woman handed them a small sack. Its contents were unknown. In a whisper-like voice, she said, "Take this and give it to Tinu if you ever see her again." Bewildered but too proud to question, Asabi and Deli accepted the sack, their curiosity burning. When they returned home, they could not contain their excitement and opened the sack, hoping to find gold, jewels, or some magical herb. However, to their disappointment, all they found were ashes, grey and dull, nothing like what they had hoped for. Anger surged within them, and Asabi, particularly furious, called the old woman a liar. They failed to see the deeper meaning behind the gift, refusing to acknowledge that the ashes held an important message. The ashes symbolized how their bad choices had ruined their lives, much like how the ashes had once been something more. They failed to comprehend this lesson, as if looking in a mirror and refusing to see the truth. Examining the ashes, they finally began to understand the extent of the damage caused by their actions. Their lives had descended into chaos because of their meanness and jealousy. All that remained were the consequences of their choices. The ashes were not a curse from the old woman, they were her way of making them see the harm they had inflicted upon themselves and Tinu. This moment, seeing the ashes and understanding their meaning, forced Asabi and Deli to reflect on everything they had done. It didn't fix everything instantly, but it marked a time when they truly started to comprehend the reasons behind their actions. Despite the passing of time, their mistakes continued to haunt them as a constant reminder of Tinu, the girl who had once brought light into their lives, now gone, perhaps forever. As time went by and the seasons changed, the village, which had previously spoken of Tinu with sadness, was about to witness something surprising. On a busy market day, a new face appeared in the village, a woman who stood out among the crowd. She was dressed in fine clothes, exuding wealth and beauty. However, she wasn't there to buy or sell anything. Instead, she walked through the village, generously giving gifts and money to everyone. The villagers were thrilled, eagerly waiting for their turn to receive something from this benevolent woman. When it came time for Asabi and Deli's turn, instead of receiving gifts or money like everyone else, the woman handed them a note. She instructed them to read it once they were back home. After ensuring that every villager had received something, she departed in the evening, leaving the villagers abuzz with talk of the kind and wealthy woman. Curious and a bit anxious, Asabi and Deli opened the note. To their astonishment, it simply read, "It's me, Tinu." At the bottom, it urged them to step outside. Confused and surprised, Asabi and Deli followed the note's instructions and ventured outside their home, where they found a large crowd waiting. Among the crowd, they spotted the old woman and, to their disbelief, Tinu herself, alive and well. Her presence was a shock to everyone. In front of the assembled crowd, Asabi and Deli began confessing all the wrongs they had done to Tinu, revealing how poorly they had treated her. This moment was a major surprise for the entire village. Tinu had returned not seeking revenge, but to confront her past and those who had wronged her. It was a moment of truth for Asabi and Deli, and a turning point for the entire village. Asabi admitted that her friends had influenced her negatively against Tinu, leading her to act cruelly. Deli also confessed to his mistreatment of Tinu. The villagers couldn't believe what they were hearing and were upset. They wanted to make amends for Tinu's sake. However, Tinu asked for their attention to share her side of the story. After Tinu had run away from Deli's house, she had met a kind and wealthy man who listened to her story and decided to help her. Over time, Tinu fell in love with the man's son, and they got married. It turned out that the man was actually Deli's boss before everything had happened. The villagers were amazed by her story. Tinu then revealed another surprise: the old woman was her mother. She explained that on the night of the fire, her mother hadn't died. A stranger had saved her, but people had mistakenly believed she was gone since her body couldn't be found. The ashes that Asabi and Deli had received were symbolic, representing how their greed had indirectly caused the fire. In this moment, Tinu and her mother had a heartfelt reunion, while Asabi and Deli felt deep shame for their past actions. However, Tinu didn't seek revenge. She asked her husband to rehire Deli and even gave Asabi some money to start over. Then, Tinu and her mother left for the city, where they began a new, happy life together. This marked the beginning of a new chapter for Tinu's mother, a tale woven with threads of pain, courage, and forgiveness. It was not an ending but a fresh start. Thank you for watching. See you in the next updated videos.